Welcome to the Align Your Practice podcast. This is Dr. Joe Esposito. I'm excited today to be talking about breaking the student mindset with Dr. Andrew Quick. How you doing, Doc?
Doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because we do got a lot of students on this podcast. I just gave a lecture to the Delts, which I know that's your tribe down in Life University. Really awesome group of guys, and had so much fun with those guys. So it brought me to light about helping students break some of the mindset. So give me some scoop. How long ago were you a student? Where'd you go?
Yeah, so I went to Sherman College, graduated in March of 2020. So great timing, right before COVID. And it was, and then practiced in Atlanta for a while, associated there, and then came back home to Charleston, South Carolina. Started my own practice in June of 2021.
June of 2021. So you are about 2.5 years. So you can still taste the student mindset, I'm sure. But you're farther along on the other side. That's why I thought you'd be awesome for this podcast. Talk to me from your perspective, and I'll tell you mine, on student mindset. What are you feeling as a student? What are you thinking about? What are you stressing about? Because you're going to cross the barrier to being the doc. So let's talk about where's the student at?
Coming out of school, you're all you know is the trenches. All you know is the adjustments. You're not thinking, you might have an idea of vision and business and overhead and things like that, but really what you know is student clinic, shadowing other docs, the chiropractic and what technique, what do you want to do? What are your goals? But you might have a big picture vision, but it's all, in the air. The actual what is the chiropractic side versus the owner side.
Yeah, so I think some of it's healthy. I think because I was obsessed with technique and adjusting, and it did help me. I had confidence coming out, but I was I think the word is monomaniacal, so laser focused on that I was pretty much blinded to any consciousness around leadership, business. I was just obsessed with technique, passing classes, right? I mean, that's kind of the mindset there. So what do you see on the other side of that? What's the big shocker or awareness? Like, okay, we'll go back to where you were. You got the license, you got the permits, you started, you and I met, and you're going to buy a practice. We could talk some funny stories about negotiating a practice.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was pretty eye-opening. Go back to that stage of that flip. What were the fears now being an owner?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when you're in school, all you care about is, passing boards and, this exams and exit exams and practicals, and then you got your technique and then you come out and you step into that world of being an owner, and that shift to owner is different. And you may hear it during school. You may hear it at conferences and training events is, you have to be your chiropractic hat versus your owner hat. You have to be different and they're different things. And you hear that and you say, yeah, of course, absolutely. And then you get into practice. And what I found myself doing was I was stuck in the chiropractor mode and not enough of the owner mode. There's because that's what I was comfortable with. I think that's what I knew better. I knew the technique. I knew how I was going to adjust. I knew what that facet of it, the idea of marketing and training and systems and all that. It was needed, but I wasn't nearly as comfortable. And so I think I fell more into that chiropractor zone and not the owner zone as much as I needed to.
What's interesting about that, I think, is when we're so caught into our trade, our profession, then we end up not having the black belt in the business, the systems and whatnot. Then there may not be enough profit. There may not be enough patients. There may not be enough business. There may not be enough staff. There may not be the structure needed to actually perform our craft and what we love in chiropractic. Now your attention has to be on poverty complex, not have enough money, can't pay my bills, having trouble hiring staff, having trouble managing patient flow. So guess where your attention is? It's off of your love of your craft. Now you're focusing on money and people and all this. Your energy is dispersed because you loved your your craft so much. Yeah. So my advice, and then you could help me with your perspective, is two things. Keep doing what you're doing, but take 15 or 20% of your time and focus it on learning leadership, business, marketing, communication. Just 10, 20. Don't drop your technique. Don't stop doing what you're doing, but just put that level on it so you're constantly gaining some curiosity and whatnot, I think would be really, really helpful. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I first started clinic, I remember my first 6 months, we specifically struggle with internal referrals. We would struggle with it. And, I couldn't understand why. What was my block? And, one of my coaches, Dr. Cliff Fisher, he mentioned, he said, what's your reasoning for doing it? I was like, oh, well, to help patients, to help people, of course. And he says, but when you're asking for the referral, when you're talking about the referral, where are you? What is that actually coming from? Are you coming from a place of love and truly want to just help people? Or are you thinking, oh, we need more new patients to cover overhead? And I had a real gut check with myself and said, I'm coming from the wrong place. And when I trained on that and worked on it, coming from, and again, bleeding into each other, the owner and the chiropractor bleeding into each other, when you separate that and you're truly present as the chiropractor, the internal referrals flew up. The numbers started doing great because they had that separate time for each other. And so, yeah, you need to spend time with both. And I think I struggled separating the two, especially early in my career, and gotten better at, not perfect, but better.
It's first awareness that it's kind of a dichotomy, or got to be somewhat bipolar, but you have to have, there's a different agenda as an owner and there's a different agenda as a chiropractor. There's different focuses. Yeah. And you have to be both. If you look at most industries, we had a chiropractor join AlignLife or wasn't going to join AlignLife because his in-laws ran a tanning franchise and a tanning booth franchise, and they had like 1,000 locations, very successful. And they said, well, I'm just going to follow their lead, and it ended up almost going bankrupt. And they called me after and said, you know what I realized is that they know tanning, but they don't know chiropractic, because in chiropractic, they're used to having staff in the front and the business owners in the back running the business. I do the service and I run the business. So I have to be in the room doing all the work, and then I got to put the hat on. Other businesses, you own a coffee shop, you own a tanning salon, you own a pizza place, you own any of these businesses, usually there's a team that you hire and the owner's running the business, right? So think about the average chiro. 90% of chiros are providing all the service. Then they have to take off that hat, and it's very confusing to put on this business owner hat and then run the business at the same time they're providing sometimes all the service, right? Isn't that like kind of the catch? Is you really have two hats and you can't mix them up. And I think that's the clarity that you felt that I think you can express to the, to people, doctors and students.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's something you hear about all the time. You got to be present with patients. I've heard that from so many mentors before, and you hear that, and then you get into actual practice. And I would catch myself again, just thinking, oh gosh, what are we going to do the next screening event? What's the next marketing we got to do? Oh, how can the conversion percentage go up? And then I'd catch myself and say, you're adjusting patients, man. You're not present. You're not focused on right now. You can have that time. And I think that's also something that's benefited me is the systems and the scheduling, is having that time to where you can put on that hat to, in a way, kind of get those thoughts out, right? So if you don't have that time in your schedule to say, I'm going to review marketing at this time, I'm going to review, how do I training or scripts at this time, then it's going to come out whenever it can come out, instead of having those set times. So again, things you hear about, but then actually implementing them makes all the difference.
So to give some practicality to it, if you're a student watching this, do things like listen to this podcast, come to the AlignLife Club, read some books, find some other mentorship in the schools or in seminar series where you can step a little bit away from just the delivery of chiropractic and learn some of these other components. If I was to give you some quick advice, I would say I would read the book Crucial Conversations, would probably be my number one, to learn how to have authentic conversations, be able to handle conflict very well, create safe space for people to have the conversation of telling your patient, hey, you're not following the care. Hey, let me be your doctor. We have to reduce weight because it's taxing the spine. Hey, to your staff, we're creating some conflicts with the other team members. Let's sit down and discuss. Like, there's a lot of crucial conversations, I think, is one of the first things you should learn in leadership. But open your eyes to leadership, open your eyes to communication, open your eyes to business 10, 15% of the time. And then the rest of the time, focus on your boards, your technique. I do love people that are passionate about technique. And I know we'll probably in the future be talking through some of that stuff, but I think it's important to have something that we can lean on really strong, a foundation of a technique that we can hang our hat on and be like, I can climb through adversity in my profession or my trade because I can lean on this conviction I have. But all of us that were so passionate about it, like myself and yourself, we put not enough time on the other things because we got so far on one side. So I don't regret it. I would just say back in my time, if I would have put 10% on opening the awareness of it, I think I would have less struggle in the first few years of moving forward. So that's kind of my advice. So I took a Darren Hardy. I don't know if you know Darren Hardy.
Oh yeah, the Compound Effect is the first book I read every year. I've done that. This will be my 5th year in a row coming up in 2024, and I love that book. Love Darren Hardy.
I know you've coached with Cliff Fisher. He's a big Darren Hardy fan, so him and I talk a lot about some of his work. He does a lot of work with Darren Hardy. But one of the things he said, I lost my thought on that. I lost my thought. He was talking about, it was something clarity on focus. It'll come to me, but Darren Hardy really gets you to be really self-aware of where you're putting your attention, where you're putting your focus. Oh, this is the clarity of one of the things. He said, pick something that you have a gap in. And I told this to you and your team when we did a strategy session. And I got this from Darren Hardy. Let's say you talked about having more leadership, right? Skill sets as you progress in your business. And I had said from Darren Hardy's work, what 4 books do you have to read? What live seminar do you have to attend? What podcast do you have to listen to? And then figure out when you're going to read which book, which quarter, when you're going to listen to podcasts in the morning, half an hour, 3 days a week. So it's like, where do we level up our knowledge? Because that's the awareness that we need. So wherever you are, and I talked about this with the Delts this past week, is you got to have certainty in 5 different categories. Clinical certainty, right? That's our techniques. Number 2, communication certainty. We talked about having good communication. Number 3 is systems. Number 4 would be business acumen, how to, run the business. And then your ability to drive lead generation. Like, there's different levels of certainty that you need. And you're going to grow to the point of your weakest piece of certainty. No, I'm sorry, not lead generation. That would be more business. It would be philosophical. So we have the 5th one being philosophical. So you've met chiros that are really high philosophical, real bad clinical, or real bad clinical, real good philosophy, or poor business people and great technique, right? We're going to grow to the point of our lowest certainty of those 5 categories. So the Delts took a lot of notes when I spoke on that, and we went around the room and said, what's your weakest? Guess what most of the time it is of those 5? Which one do you think?
Oh gosh, I would say the business, and anything regarding business. I mean, everyone knows you don't get taught business in school. Everyone knows that. Everyone says it.
Everyone said business. Every one of them said, I was like, really? Every single one said business. The Delts, high philosophy, right? Some of them are great clinical, but where they felt they needed. And that's what we do in AlignLife, is bring the business side to help you understand, whether it be a profit loss, whether it be to run your books, how to build a team. Those are the places we're going to fall down. We're probably not going to fall down on the adjusting component. But that's all you think about it, the student.
Yeah, Joe, and I think it's frustrating to see it. It is frustrating to see, to personally know great chiropractors that I went to school with, or from around the profession, and they fail in practice because they're strong in philosophy. They're great clinicians. They do great work. They help great people, but they don't know business. And that is it's sad. It's a crime because we need more of that. And I know that's where we connected, because
Yeah.
you came in, and a great conversation, the first time we met, saying, hey, so how much business were you taught in school? You knew the answer. I knew the answer. I said, not much. He said, yeah, I bet. And that was a great segue into saying, hey, how can AlignLife help? And it is something that I think schools are starting to implement more business courses, but it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. And yeah, there's a lot of way to go for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's usually the beginning of the conversation. Joe Clarino, who you know very well, good friend of mine, great leader in the AlignLife movement. He said he did an interview at Life University to students with probably like 100, like a lot of people. And he asked, how confident are you? And how much are you looking for help to get, to be successful? So they go by the quarter system there. The first 4 quarters, confidence, 9 or 10, needing help, 1 or 2. Then it was like the 5th through the 8th quarter. It was like confidence, 7, 8, and then need help, 3, 4. And then, the story. So at the end, the last 4 quarters, help, 10, confidence, 0. It was like, because they're ready to get out. It was like, well, I don't know anything. It was so funny when he showed me the data.
Right.
Because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And it's a cliche to say,
but it's true.
I'm learning more now at 52 than I'm more open to learn now than I was 20. It's a cliche, but it's right. It's so true.
Very accurate cliche. Yeah.
That's so great. All right. So in closing thoughts, if you were to give some advice to a student, like students getting in their last year, and they're thinking of opening on their own, they got the confidence, they got a technique, they know where they want to go, and they're ready to roll. Like, is there a mindset or a behavior or a thought process that you would have to the person listening right now that's going to open? What are your
got tons. Obviously, we could be here for another 10 hours, talking about that straight. I think in school you learn the philosophy. You learn. If you go to the right schools, you learn the philosophy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sherman and Life. The chiropractic side, the philosophy side, the passion, the mission, the purpose is all there. Towards your. It's never too early to start learning the business aspect, the mindset aspect. I think the biggest thing I would say is, read, podcast, shadow, get out there, find mentors, find coaches who have done what you want to do.
Smart.
And then ask them how they did it. Because what I shadowed a lot of different chiropractors when I was in school, and something I wish I would have done more is find chiropractors who had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish and in the way that I wanted to accomplish it. I guess that find do you, like you always say, get granular with it, figure out what do you want to achieve, and then find the business aspects, find the structure and your scheduling, because I had the mission and purpose and passion. I'm going to save the world. I had that down. But that business aspect, that mindset, the marketing, that is the biggest gap. And again, it's what we're not taught in school. So you have to seek it out. You have to seek out the people who have done it. You have to seek out the ways in which you can accomplish that vision that gets created in school.
I think that's a great way to leave this session. To add to that, I would say what you're saying, give yourself the grace and the space to write out that vision as clear as you can so you can taste it. And it may change 3 months later or a year later. That's okay, because you have a lack of experience. So, but refine it to as granular as you can, and then share it with a potential mentor. This is what I want to create. Well, I think I can help you with that. Can I come follow Shadow? This is what I'm trying to do. And they may give you advice. You know what? I would do this before that, or maybe, well, that's some good advice. And you share, like, this is my vision. and have it refined and share and do what exactly Dr. Andrew said, is find mentorship and you
They're
want
out there.
yeah, there's people out
They're
there.
out there. There's so many people out there in our profession that are willing to help, that have that fire still, that desire and passion to help students, to help those young in the profession. And so if you seek it, you will find it. You just got
Love
to
it.
look for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks again. I'm probably going to invite you on for a future one to break down the mindset of chiropractor versus the owner. So you and I can dive deep on that. So it'll be fun. But have a great day. And thanks again. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, man.